I would like to ask you, how was the let's say the process of getting yourself settled? So you said you had the
Mhm.
visa. I would guess the work permits as well. It's something that you got already in the US, but
Mhm.
when you arrived, you still had to open a bank account. You still had to get maybe some work permit that had to be done physically. How did that process went for you as US citizens in Europe or in
Well,
Spain?
the first part of it was just getting our visas, which
Mhm.
where we were at in North Carolina, you actually had to go up to Washington, D.C. And so it involved us all going up, driving for 4.5, 5 hours up to Washington, D.C., have the whole interview and the appointment. And then we had to drive back. And then a week or two later, we had to go back up to get the visa
To pick them up
to
in
pick them up
person.
in person because they didn't have a mail option
For this
for
embassy,
that
yeah.
embassy. So just that part was kind of
It was
like,
like
oh,
16 hours of driving round trip for a 20-minute appointment and maybe 3 minutes to go in, walk in, pick up our visas, and come back. Like, cool. That was fun. um, so that was that part. And there's not like there's a train, but it takes just as long to do that without. So the train systems aren't great in the United States. So it was easier to drive. And once we got here, that was actually, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Because again, I've lived abroad before, but like, I think a lot of people, are like shocked and oh my gosh, the paperwork and the immigration you have to do. Like, if you've never lived in that country before, like you don't, like if you're native to that country, you don't know how challenging the paperwork to move there is. You just have no idea. So I honestly didn't think it was as bad as I've expected before. There were little things like
the time. Like they're only open
mhm,
from 9 to 12 or
or
nine
nine
to
to
one
two
or nine to
too.
two.
This too.
So
So yeah, you have to if you for some reason we were teaching and we were working from 9 to 2. So if you can't leave your job, they're only open until that time. So it's not like you can come back later. That was a problem. There were just little things along the way, like we needed an NIE number for our daughter. She didn't have that in her passport, and you have to pay a fee to get the NIE number, but you can't pay the fee without the NIE number. So it's like this big circular issue. Like you can't pay the fee to get the number, you can't get the number without the fee. Like that was one thing. And then we had our TIE appointments, and you were supposed to be able to book them online. We tried, you're supposed to book them within a certain time frame. We couldn't get an appointment. And we finally like knocked on the door and shoved our way in without an appointment. And we're like, please, we don't know why. And they're like, oh yes, the website doesn't work. I'm like, well, I, we had checked every half an hour from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. every single day for like a week or two to see if like new appointments came open. Like, oh yeah, the website for our region doesn't work. Don't worry about it. Like, okay, cool. So it's just stuff like that. Like, that was just the weird quirks of like, I feel like if they were Spanish setting up setting up the systems, they don't realize the weird things like you can't pay the fee without the NIE and you can't get the NIE without the fee. Like you don't know that until you're experiencing that yourself. So if you're a government authority from Spain, you don't realize that's a problem that someone might run into until you're doing the process yourself. So it's just those little things. But I ran into issues with that in France too. But I think it's pretty common anytime you move abroad from somewhere else. There's like those little things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, they also are connected somehow to the culture, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they are relaxed. Like, it's
Oh
okay.
yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, the website doesn't work. Like, oh okay, thank you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like we know it, everyone knows it. It's all good. But
Mhm.
I think that also makes the fun of it, right?
Yeah,
When you get adapted
exactly.
to the new
I think
culture.
if you don't
Yeah,
try once through some type of immigration process, you're doing it wrong.
correct, correct, correct. You're absolutely right. I'm fully with you. Um, and not only that, but also the follow up. So somehow I don't know if I said already, but I made the same experience. Like in Germany, you cannot
Mhm.
open a bank account without an address, but you cannot get an address without
The bank account.
the working contract, and for the working contract, you need a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep,
you
I
you're
ran
running
into
in a
that with France too. Like I can't rent until I have a bank account, but yep, I've totally experienced that.
exactly.
Mhm.
But I think that's why I think that this experience are important to realize that everyone went through them, and to see that of course there is a solution. You just have to find the right person to insist a bit and say, okay, I have to get out of this issue, but at the end everyone is going through the same. And the people living in the country, they don't know these issues because they always had everything. They always had a bank account. They always had, so it's easier, right? How was the visa process? How complicated was the visa process, Priyanka?
So I think one thing you have to understand is visa and passport privileges are real. I don't know. I don't want to create controversy by saying this, but they are absolutely real. Like when you are from certain countries and when you have a strong passport, you just, again, I think people who have a strong passport live in a bubble, and people who have a weaker passport live in the real world out there. Because the process for my educational visa, because the first one was I have to prove to the UK government that A, I've got the English skills, I've got the university acceptance offer, I've got the funds to prove that I will be able to sustain myself here. And there was I think I had to give them my whole history. And then I got the visa. That was the student visa. And after that, I was on graduate visa. For that, I have to pay a lot of money, especially if you're an international student. It's a lot of money. And then I had to pay for that. So that application process was a lot. And if you're just one individual, and if you're like me, who is so used to people helping you out, and now you're alone here filling out all these government documents, yeah, that was really complicated. And I had to give my biometrics, again, give my whole details again. And then I moved to skilled worker visa. But luckily, my company supported me this time. But then in the end, even there, I had to constantly talk to my HR and everyone and say, every time there was a news update, there was recently a news update that they're changing visa rules, and it was a panic again. I have to talk to them and see, this is what is happening. Can you do that? Can you do this? And it's like a constant living on edge kind of situation. But end of the day, my company did help me. So that was relatively, although stressful in my head, but there was someone to help me through this. Yeah.
So you are still, still sounds bad, but you are on a working visa.
Yeah.
And the period in which you are allowed to stay in UK legally is the period that you are working for a company.
For the company, yeah.
Okay. I fully agree with what you said before, that people with a strong passport are living in a bubble. I'm living in Germany since 10 years, and these people that have a strong passport, they don't realize that there are countries which are somehow in a big disadvantage when it comes to traveling. I had the first discussion I will never forget somewhere to 16 to 17 after I came. My company opened the business in USA, and they asked me to travel. I said I'm not allowed to without a visa, and they said no, you are allowed. You just apply on this website. No, it's not so easy. No.
Pretty sure I know about my visa situation.
No, I will ask HR. For sure they can fix it for you. I said no, trust me. But no, don't worry. Everything can be fixed. It's okay, we fix it. Of course, he came back after 2 days, said, "Hey, you are right, you have to apply for a visa."
I think that was a culture shock for me. When you asked me what was the preconception, what was the culture shock, that was it. Because people with stronger passports, they're just like, oh, why don't you go why don't you go for a weekend to Amsterdam? I'm like, I can't. I have to. I have to give them my blood data and everything just so that
I have to promise
Yeah.
them that I'm coming back and
Yeah.
I behave.
And I behave, and I have to allow them to put a tracker in me or something like that, so that which I'm fine with, by the way. If that's what makes it easier for them, then take it. Take my
Exactly.
data because I'm here for the experience. But it's just, I think I was privileged enough because I made a conscious effort of not just surrounding myself with my fellow country people, but I tried to, like I said, put myself out there and get all these experiences. So I was interacting with people from different cultures and obviously people with stronger passports. And yeah, it's they just don't realize how easy they have it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And it's
have
not even a negative thing. I'm not
No,
even
no,
jealous
no.
of them. I'm like, good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you have to accept the fact that you have a privilege there. And as soon as you accept, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about that, but I'm not throwing it in your face anymore. But you have a privilege there.
Yeah. You have to privilege, just like for me, I think if you just acknowledge that you're at an advantage and you're privileged, that would just mean a lot to me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I one small last story. Last year, yes, I was 25 and 24. We've been in with my wife and my kid. We've been in the US in holiday, and our flight got canceled. The connection, not the connection, but the actual flight that was flying from JFK, from New York back to Frankfurt. And I went to I got the message, you are booked on a flight that is flying through Toronto. And I called the company. I said, I'm not allowed to fly through Toronto. How come not? I don't have a visa for Canada. Yeah, but you don't need one. Yes, I do. Yeah, but you don't enter the country, you're transited. Yes, it's called a transit visa. For people who don't know, and you are working at a flight company, you should be aware of the fact that I need a
Yeah.
bloody transit visa to be able to transit Canada.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, you kind of got me started, but I realize that you are absolutely so right that there is a passport privilege that nobody's talking about.
Yeah, I think we should absolutely talk more about passport privilege and the privilege of not knowing how bad. I wouldn't say bad. Bad is a bad word. I wouldn't say how I would
Easy and
say,
hard. Easy and
yeah,
hard.
how hard it is for people from some countries. But this is not a reflection that these countries are bad. It's just how the world politics are being set up. Like, India is not a bad country. I mean, it's a great country. But there's only certain passport privileges that I'm allowed.